The Kamar cycle was a Hurrian myth detailing the birth of the storm god and his battles against his father Kamarbe for the throne of heaven. The Kamarbe cycle was a Hurrian myth adapted by the Hittites, while Kamarbe himself was a Hurrian god. The epic incorporates other gods from Near Eastern cultures, like the Babylonians and the Syrians. The storm god called the Tishab and Hyperion was replaced with the Hittite and Alupion god Tarhan. His sister Shahushka was replaced with Anzil. The Kamarbai cycle describes the birth of gods and the struggle for succession for the rule of heaven. The theme of divine succession would later be appropriated by the Greeks as seen in Hesiod's Theogony, Rhyme and Monopoly, the surviving copy of the Kamarbai cycle is separated into many parts, three of which are still preserved. The tablets found were written in Hittite between 1400 BCE, 1400 BCE, and 1200 BCE. The stored ray was probably originally recorded during the height of Hurrian civilization around 1500 BCE. The Hurrians lived in northern Mesopotamia during the Bronze Age and spoke a language that was not related to that of the neighbors. By the late Bronze Age, they were largely assimilated into the surrounding cultures, but they also left their own cultural impact, especially on the Hittites, who established a great empire in the Near East between roughly 1600 and 1200 BCE. The first part of the Kamarbai cycle was the song of birth, or the song of coming forth, previously known as the song of kingship in heaven, or the song of Kamarbe before the Scott laws. Learn the truth title. This part detailed the rise to power of the Kamarbe and the birth of the storm god Tarhan, and the separation generation of gods. The following was the song of the sea, which no longer survives but was summarized in another text. The song describes Tarhan's battles against the sea. The song of Lama, the song of Lama, which is very fragmentary, describes the rule of the Tatlere god, whose name is represented by the submarine sign Lama. This god somehow defeated Tarhan and was king of Hethan for a time before ultimately being disposed. The Song of Silver describes the birth of Silver, another son of Kamarbe, who was king in Hethan for a time as well. The next two parts, called the Song of Hedemu and the Song of Ayula Akamai, describe the battles between Kamarbai and the Tarhan as Kamarbai tries to regain the throne of heaven from the storm god by birth and new sons to rival him. Only the first tablet from his multi-tablet poem survives. The myth opens with a call to former gods to listen to the story of the birth of the storm god. It starts with Allahu, the king in Hethan who ruled in heaven for 9 years before being overthrown by his cupbearer Anu and flee into the underworld. After another 9 years, Anu was overthrown by his cupbearer Kamarbe. Anu tried to flee into the sky. Kamarbe caught him by the foot and pulled him back down. He bit Anu, castrated him with his teeth, then swallowed his genitals, but I was a cannibal. Kamarbe celebrated his victory, but Anu told him that he was now pregnant with 3 of his children. Before fleeing into heaven, Kamarbe spat out the genitals onto Mount Tessa, which gave birth to Tashimoshu, but Kamarbe was still pregnant with two gods. Kamarbe went to the city of Nippur, which he tried to determine the best way to give birth. He knew and yet to be born Tarhan discussed the options and considered that Tarhan be born from Kamarbe's head. After Tarhan was born, the fate of goddesses sewed up Kamarbe's skull. Upset at the birth of a rightful fourth throne, Kamarbe demanded that Ea, the god of wisdom, give him the newborn Tarhan. But Ea tricked him, but he gave him a basalt stone. And when Kamarbe tried to eat it, he broke his teeth on the stone and threw it away. A cult formed around the discarded stone. Tarhan, having now grown into an adult, spoke to a different deity, Sherish, about defeating other gods and taking control of heaven. Sherish told Ea of Tarhan's plan, and Ea became furious. The text becomes incredibly fragmented by the end of the tablet, so the events are unclear. What is clear is that Kamarbe had two new suddenly gods, but Hadamu had a ravenous appetite, eating thousands upon thousands of all animals imaginable. So Metne, that it was beyond count somehow. And Zille heard about the monstrous Hadamu, and she went to warn Tarhan about the danger. Storm God then visited Kamarbe to ask about his new rival. At some point, EA tries to impress upon the two warring gods of the consequences their struggle was having on humans. He complained that humans would no longer give sacrifices or worship to gods if their conflict continued, saying that the gods would have to till the fields or grind grain themselves. After the discovery of Adamu, and Zille tried to seduce the monster in order to vanquish him. She presented herself naked on the edge of the sea, singing songs and striking cymbals together to give the monster his attention. The end of the story isn't known, but it is assumed that Tarhan and Enzil defeated Hadamu. I like in the song. Anzeli is called us upon to seduce Basalt Giant. She adorned herself in gold and burned incense. She played a lyre, struck syllables, and sang songs to gain Eucamne's attention. The giant came after her, but he was immune to her seduction, her suspicion, the final religion. The Kamarbe cycle not only influenced Hittite and Mesopotamian mythologies, but also made its way to Greece. Hesiod's Theogony, an ancient Greek epic poem written in the 7th century BC, describing the birth of the gods, the reign of Titans and Zeus. Rise to power shows clear influence from the Kamarbe cycle. Kamarbe cycle is succession from Uranus to Cronus, from Cronus to Zeus. Follows closely the successions in the Song of Birth, and as Anu was overthrown by Kamarbe, and then Kamarbe was overthrown by Taran. Both myths depict the castration of the sky, Anus and Uranus, as well as the birth from the blood and semen of the castrated sky gods. In the Greek version, the blood and semen land upon the earth to the birth of the first rays. The giants or nymphs and Aphrodite and the Hittite myth, they birth a tigress river called Arizon and Tarhan. Arizon and Tarhan, brother Tashmishu, Cronus swallowing his children while having no direct parallel, and the Kamarbe myth still shares elements with the Song of Birth, and the fact that the children of Kamarbe at first reside within Kamarbe himself. The trick Rhea used to save Zeus from being eaten, and giving Cronus a stone in the child's place shares elements with Ea giving Kamarbe a stone to eat in a place of the newborn Tarhan. Likewise, Rhymer, the birth of Tarhan from Camarbe's had parallels the birth of Athena from Zeus. Zeus's battle against Typhoon also shows similarities with the song of Euryclea and Tarhan's first battle, the basalt giant. They both occupy the same position in the narrative and describe the final effort to overthrow the newly crowned storm god preserved in Apollodorus library of Greek mythology. The first assault of Zeus against Typhoon failed, and all the gods were driven from heaven. There's little doubt that Hesiod knew of Mark by cycle, although it's unclear in what form he knew it. Even though there are unwritten copies, very few people in Mesopotamia could read cuneiform script, and the Greeks certainly could not. The stories were transmitted orally through Anatolia and Phoenicia, the fivefold Phoenicia. So the substance of the text may have changed considerably from the time the surviving tablets were written to when they were adapted by the Greeks. Still, the story of Camarbe, its theme and divine succession highlights the cultural connectedness of the ancient world as it spins and it whirls and it twirls and it swirls.